Surface sensitivity. It can make or break a player. So, how did Nadal become the king of clay? How was Federer able to achieve 19 grass titles, including 8 Wimbledon championships? How did Djokovic make the Australian Open his Why are some players surface sensitive? Let's get started with clay courts. This is the slowest of the 3 surfaces. The moment you realize that your opponent has hit a drop shot, you charge forward trying your best to accelerate yourself. Suddenly, you're slipping and sliding and then remember that you're playing on clay. Your inability to gain traction is due to the loose particles. So, how do players accelerate and change direction? Footwork. Precise footwork helps players maintain balance. And you can't mention footwork on clay without mentioning sliding. Because it's so hard to change your velocity, stopping can become an issue. Sliding was invented to counter this. By keeping contact with the surface, you maintain a constant frictional force for maximum deceleration. It's a mechanic essential to clay court match play. The player's movement isn't the only reason why clay is considered the slowest though. The pace of the ball is also slower. Whereas the player experiences a decreased frictional force, the ball takes it all in. When the ball makes contact with the court, the force of friction is stronger again because of the loose particles. Because the ball is less flat than the sole of a shoe, it is more easily gripped by the relatively uneven clay court, causing it to slow down horizontally. So, where does the ball's energy go? Because of the increased friction, much of it is converted into forms of non-mechanical energy like heat, but that's not all. Some of the ball's kinetic energy is redirected vertically, again because of the uneven surface, causing it to bounce higher. So what type of player do clay courts favor? Because of the slow pace, it favors defenders. Hitting winners is much more difficult on clay because it gives defenders much more time to reach the ball. Additionally, defenders generally have great footwork, which is imperative on clay. Because clay courts reward consistency, defenders are often able to draw out and dictate long grinding rallies. These drawn-out rallies also allow more potential for strategizing, whereas on other surfaces, it's a lot easier to just power through a match. Finally, one word: topspin. This is why Rafael Nadal was a hard counter to Federer in Roland Garros. Nadal knew that balls bounced higher on clay, and he decided to double down on that with his topspin. The ATP average forehand revolutions per minute is around 2,700. Nadal averaged 3,200 RPMs, reaching as high as 5,000 RPMs. The high backhand is a notoriously tough shot to execute, and when you consider the fact that Federer used a one-hander, playing Nadal on clay was a nightmare for him. Out of the 6 times they played each other at the French Open, Federer didn't win once. Now the complete opposite of clay courts is grass courts, often considered the fastest surface. Unlike clay, grass is a very soft, low-friction surface that causes the ball to skid, dissipating less mechanical energy horizontally and preserving its high speed after contact. Additionally, the blades of grass stick up and out of the ground, so before the ball hits the ground, it collides with these blades. The grass bends, enacting a force that resists the downward direction of motion, causing the ball to bounce lower than it would on other surfaces. The soft dirt foundation also contributes to the loss of vertical momentum. The combination of a fast and low ball makes it all the more difficult to return shots. Because of how little time players have to return shots on grass, this surface will suit aggressive, attacking players looking to end the point quickly. Hitting winners is much easier on grass because defenders have to match the pace of the ball, which is extremely challenging compared to on clay. Grass also rewards powerful serves, which are the fastest shots in tennis. This is how Goran Ivanisevic the wild card won Wimbledon with just his absurdly dominant serve. Another way to be a threat on grass is to be the inverse Nadal. The slice is much more effective on grass. Instead of doubling down on topspin to achieve a higher bounce on clay, you can combine backspin with a low bouncing surface like grass to keep the ball glued to the ground. Players like Dan Evans, who slices what seem to be about 99% of his backhands, benefit from this factor, making grass his best surface. The low bounce is also one of the reasons Federer dominated Nadal on grass. Nadal's high bouncing balls were neutralized to a comfortable swing height for Federer, and let's not forget that Federer's brutal attacking style suited grass perfectly, along with his nasty backhand slice. These factors led to a 3-1 head-to-head record at Wimbledon in Federer's favor. The third and final surface is hardcourt. In almost every aspect, hardcourts are in between clay and grass. For example, in terms of speed, it follows the norm. Hardcourts aren't as soft as grass, meaning the friction will slow the ball down more, but not as much as on clay because the ball won't dig into the surface. In terms of bounce, hardcourts have a solid base, unlike grass, which has the dirt foundation, meaning more vertical momentum is conserved on hardcourts. However, hardcourts can't convert horizontal momentum into vertical momentum like the loose clay particles can. The only thing that stands out on hard courts is the consistency of the ball's bounce. On clay and grass, the surface is uneven, leading to unpredictable bounces. On hard courts, you know exactly where the ball will end up. Other than this aspect, hard courts might as well be the child of the two other surfaces. It's the jack of all trades. This perfectly describes what type of players the hard court favors. Because hard courts don't encourage a particularly offensive or defensive playstyle, players aren't forced to modify their game according to the surface they're on. Instead, they have the freedom to focus on adapting to their opponent. So, the athletes who enjoy hard courts the most are the strategists and the all-court players. In the Australian Open, Djokovic was unstoppable. Because of his complete and balanced game, he was able to adapt to his opponents, utilizing the hard court while doing so. In one match, he could counter Federer's elite serve and attacking style with a defensive mindset, which included consistent shots and deep, heavy topspin to Federer's backhand, sort of like a counterfeit Nadal. In the next match, he could bully Nadal with aggressive on-the-rise shots, taking away the time Nadal needed to set up his monster forehand. In short, Djokovic bullied his opponents into unfamiliar territory. Because Federer liked ending points quickly, Djokovic extended them. Because Nadal liked prolonged rallies, Djokovic cut them short. Once Djokovic figured you out, there wasn't anything you could do about it. So, considering the advantages and disadvantages of each surface, should you take on an offensive, defensive, or an all-around playstyle? Well, the most important thing is that you enjoy tennis, so play however you want. But if you don't have a preference, it depends on what courts you have access to. In France, you'll see clay more than any other surface, so you might choose to play defense, but in the US, hard courts dominate the scene, so you'll want to work towards a more versatile game. But what about on the pro scene, where you see all surface types? In my opinion, the all-around playstyle is the way to go because the majority of tournaments in the ATP are on hard court. Why is this? Hard courts are generally the easiest to maintain. The courts are durable and don't require constant maintenance. Conversely, grass courts get roughed up after as little as one match, and you quite literally have to watch grass grow to fully restore a court, which is a big factor as to why only 15% of ATP tournaments are on grass. But at the end of the day, you can succeed with any playstyle on any surface. The only catch is, the more you improve, the more influence a surface has on the outcome of a match.